Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 292. My name is Brando. Another episode you can watch on Zoom if you would like. You get to see my makeshift background, but we get to see Timothy White, his office, which looks very pristine and clean.
Oh, wait, I didn't realize. We need to straighten up a bit.
Your exercise ball. Sorry. It looks
Motorcycles.
Wow, look at that.
Anyway,
Timothy White, welcome to Appetite for Distortion. Thanks for coming on today.
thank you, Brandon.
Where are you now, if you don't mind me asking? Where are you located, unless it's a secret place?
It is a secret place. It's underground in Pennsylvania. It's about a mile underground.
Okay, I like that.
No, I'm in LA. I'm in my garage. Since
Okay.
COVID, this is where I've been. So
Okay. That's actually a pretty good segue to why I wanted to, just to get into our conversation, because you've shot everybody that if you name a celebrity, you've taken their photograph. It seems like that. If you go to your website, timothywhite.com, very, very easy to find, every single one famous, from Arnold Schwarzenegger to, well, axlrose, that's hence why you're here today. But when the pandemic hit, as you see me and why you see my background, I've been, as I try to keep that GN'R theme, I've been feeling my quarantine, because I'm normally into the serpentine. It's not that funny. I shouldn't have repeated it. Normally, thank you. I'm normally in a studio in Tribeca for iHeart. I go back there every now and then, but for the most part, I got a studio here, apartment, not a studio apartment. I got a studio here in my apartment in Queens. So what about for you being a photographer, where you're so used to not just going to concerts but to being, kind of very close to people, getting up front and in their face? How is your job changed, and how do you think maybe the photography field as a whole, I guess, has changed?
Yeah,
Right off the bat.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's multiple things there, and that I had big studios in New York when I was in New York. Since I moved to LA, had a big studio here, which I let go of the beginning of COVID, and put it into a different kind of facility, and moved into my garage. I've got galleries in New York, the Morrison Hotel Gallery in New York, LA, and Maui, and all of a sudden they were closed. And so that was a whole different kind of experience. We did a lot of activations and openings, exhibition openings, and all of a sudden that changed, all the mingling and the party. So but we focused down. We got really creative. Created an e-commerce business. Did some live streaming and a lot of online stuff, online exhibitions and whatnot, and I've actually grown the gallery business. And then, relative to photography, and shooting pictures, there's been shoots. You start with a mask. It's just sort of not the nature of a shoot, though. You kind of, after a while, you start to engage in a different way, and especially the way I engage with my subjects, it sort of doesn't really work like that. So it's different. We're learning.
What is your style? As someone who's I'm a novice. I'm not going to pretend to be one of those these Instagram photographers. If I take a nice picture, it's on accident. But what is your style? Like, how would you describe your style as a professional, legendary professional photographer?
I mean, I guess I said it like that because rather than my creative compositional style, which is a whole nother discussion, or my point of view or my vision, I think what I was more referring to is my interactive style with subjects and how I.
Sure, that's what I mean too. Yeah, that's what I mean too. So, is it different? Because you'll all of your photographs, you could see somebody really up close, or really far back. So, I mean, is it just limiting the amount of, or limiting your shots? Is that what you mean? Like maybe affecting?
No. I mean, I think my point was that by nature, I'm about a certain sort of connection and interaction, and something that is really open, and my creativity has to do with the way we connect and eventually collaborate. And it has to do with my personality, and it has to do with, that is my stock and trade. And that really is the thing that I'm better at than I am the technical side of photography, even though I'm a technical photographer. So I think what built my career and what made it work was my ability to connect with people. And that is just part of it. So with that said, the new world that we're in, there is something between us that's a little bit different, but it's hard for me to actually separate it with a mask and without touching and without getting in with people. So, it is what it is, and you hope people are vaxxed and safe, and we do what we got to do, the best we can do.
Exactly. But let's talk about times that, simpler times before there was a global pandemic. We're talking off air a little bit about, obviously, Appetite for Distortion, Guns N' Roses themed. You have some of the most iconic photos of Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses. I believe you did their first Rolling Stone cover. You said, right?
Yep.
So I guess I would love to know your style, your personality, which is really beaming right away. We've only been speaking for a few minutes, and I don't know. I could see. I'm not a model, but now I just feel like, I don't know. Do I need to, put the heart of the ocean around me? Sorry, I was like, I'm getting a little.
No, but I think you may need to do a headshot, Brandon. We may need to talk about that.
Okay, sounds good. But I want to know how you handled Guns N' Roses back then, because that was a different kind of, that was a bandemic. Sorry, that was also a bad joke, but GN'R back then were dangerous, and you got close to that danger, right?
Yeah, it's true. You use the word handle. I would definitely have used the same word. I was hired. This is the two shoots I did with GN'R were in 1988, and I wouldn't say it was the height of my career, but I was definitely on an uphill trajectory, and I was confident in my approach and what I was doing. So, and excited and extremely passionate about it. So back and forth to LA, my studio was in New York, back and forth to LA twice a month. All my assignments were here, shooting for Rolling Stone, shooting for different magazines, doing lots of different kinds of work, and got a phone call from Rolling Stone to shoot this band called Guns N' Roses that I'd heard about being in LA, staying at the Sunset Marquis Hotel, knowing the Strip, going to all the venues, had a sense of who they were, but they hadn't really broken yet at that level. It was local, it wasn't global. And I was like, cool. And I had been driving by this liquor store at night on Wilcox and Santa Monica Boulevard for years. And there was all this great neon, and it was very colorful. And I'm always about, I can make a picture anywhere, just sit on the curb. It's all about light, lens, intent, your attitude. It's like I can really make a picture anywhere under any circumstances, which has really given me a lot of creative flexibility in my career, because if you count on the sun and it rains, if you have too many expectations, you'll fuck it up. So it's better to just be open. Like, I can work if it rains, I can work if it's sunny, I can work in whatever conditions. And so, I had this sense of that corner and what I could do there. And so I had them meet me on the corner. And at the time, I remember I had a 61 Cadillac. I had this beat up 61 Cadillac. And I brought that to the shoot, and I actually did pictures with the Cadillac and the guys too, but we never used it for anything. But anyway, this was for...
and how old were you at the time?
32.
Okay.
32, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, 32. So, yeah, I don't want to monopolize the conversation. Interrupt whenever you need. But so
this is your conversation. I just like getting the picture of like, okay, what I want everyone to realize, like, okay, where was I at 32? And you're with Guns N' Roses. So I think
and I'm at the beginning of my career. It's starting to happen for me, and I realized that this may not be, the biggest band of the era, but they were hip and they were cool, and I knew it, and it was something I wanted to do. But more importantly, I was developing my relationship with Rolling Stone magazine, which was the bar, which was the benchmark for where you wanted to be as a photographer of my ilk at that time. And so here's an opportunity to shoot this band, and it was for a section they called Random Notes. I don't even know. I haven't looked at Rolling Stone in a long time. Pardon me, if they still have it. But it was the smaller picture in a note period in the beginning of the magazine. It wasn't a full feature. And so it was for opportunities for publicity or whatever for a band or whatever musician to kind of get a little thing said about them. And so for a young photographer, that's how you got involved in the magazine. You didn't get to shoot editorial features, you didn't get to shoot the cover
Sure.
first, right? At the beginning.
Kind of work your way up. I get it.
So it was Rolling Stone's first, excuse me, it was Guns N' Roses' first Rolling Stone piece. And it was an early piece for me in Rolling Stone. So it was a small little picture, but you know, I got this band and they met me on the corner and they were cool. I mean, they were malleable. They were, I could get them to do what I wanted them to do, given the picture I was showing them that I was trying to take. And it was this filthy, you know, garbage can on the corner and a lamp post and whatever. And I got on the ground in the middle of Santa Monica Boulevard and got a low angle and did some great pictures of the guys, and all of that color and neon, it just worked. And they certainly were colorful in both literally and figuratively.
Anything specific you remember, you know, that you, because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, here's kind of like the opportunity to be, you know, do you remember anything that stood out of, you know, Izzy's behavior, or was Axl late to the shoot? You know, anything that?
No, I remember Izzy being a little kind of out there. I remember, I'm sorry, what's his name with the drummer?
Oh, Steven Adler.
Steve. I remember Steven being like really into it, you know, and not everybody else trying to be a little too cool about it. But look, they were cool, you know, that's who they were. And I got a real sense of what a tight band they were. That was really clear, you know, that these guys had gone through some shit together. So, you know, it was a good moment for me. I got my picture. I'm always about, I work really fast and I kind of keep everybody distracted and try a lot of different things. And if they're not moving around, then I'm moving around. But we're always trying to do something to keep them focused on me. And I'm talking to them the whole time and kind of changing it up to get as much variety as I can. So I walked away from it and, you know, I felt really good about the picture and it ran. And now that picture, you know, is really a major moment.
How long did that shoot take, do you think?
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, you know, you're bringing back, I didn't prepare for this interview. So now that I'm thinking about it, I think I did wait around a little bit for this. It's kind of, you know, all show up and get it together. But yeah, not too long, you know, maybe, I don't know, hour and a half, maybe an hour, you know, maybe.
In GN'R time in 19.
In GN'R time, yeah. So, you know, so I think the story, you know, you mentioned is that I shot their first Rolling Stone cover. So that was 6 months later in the same year in '88. And in that 6 months, they became a global phenomenon. You know, Appetite for Destruction came out and it was, you know, MTV fucking mind blowing. You know?
So take us through, I guess, your viewpoint, because you painted a great picture of, you know, you're still young in the industry, you're making your way, you're obviously, you're credible, you're getting on Rolling Stone, trying to make your mark there. There's this new band that's kind of cool on the rise, but they're not the Guns N' Roses we know of yet. And you take the picture and you probably move on to the next gig, the next shoot, the next artist, right? And
well,
you forget about it. So how?
Yeah, no. Yes, that's true. But the picture was good, and I knew it, and I knew that these guys were around for a bit. Who knew that it was going to blow up the way it did? Okay. But I knew that they were an important piece of music history, or at least the beginning of it for me. And yeah, so it immediately went into my portfolio, you know, that I was showing around, which, you know, at the time it was like every job, everything that I had to come through with something great that expanded my repertoire, expanded my portfolio so that I could show it around and get work. And so it was an important picture for me, even though it wasn't as important as it was about to be, you know, 6 months later.
Right. Okay. So then it's obviously a great photo. Like, it's just aesthetically, you know, whether they turned out to be Guns N' Roses or just a no-name band, you would see the decline of Western civilization, you know, part 2 of like one of those bands that never made it. But when did you like start to see, it's like holding onto a rookie card or something, like, oh, I like this player. And then like, wait a minute, like he's on a home run tear. He's making the All-Star game. Like, were you kind of like reading the paper every day? Like, whoa, like I'm seeing this band explode. Like, you know, were people contacting you that weren't contacting you before, you know, maybe that were opening?
No, I mean, look, that's a short, 6 months is a really short period of time, right? And
sure, I'm trying to capture that 6 months if I can.
Yeah, I think what happened for me was all of a sudden, I mean, look, MTV and music videos at the time were, were it. And that was a really powerful album. And that was a really powerful group of music videos. And when that blew up, I mean, I saw, well, I was the guy who shot them before that kind of thing, and so, and the picture was good. It wasn't a throwaway picture. It was a solid photo in my archive and for my career at the time. So I think it was more that recognition of, oh, look at, these guys are blowing up, and I mean, come on, they were cool. It was at that moment they were the shit. It was dangerous. It was Hollywood. It was, it was loud. It was rude. It was, I mean, freaking Slash and those solo. I mean, the whole thing was just sort of over the top. And so I had my little piece, my little connection to that,
So now we get to the second connection. How did that come about? What did they say you had? We liked this guy the first time. Let's get him again. How did you get
No,
brought in?
I think it was Rolling Stone. I don't believe they had a say. Frankly, my sense was that the group couldn't have a consensus on anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they were definitely all independent animals. No, I think a lot happened in those 6 months for me in my career as well, and it grew, and my relationship with Rolling Stone grew, and it was sort of on that rise anyway. But because within the year, I had a cover contract with Rolling Stone, but this was a cover. It wasn't the first cover that I'd had, so I'd have to really look into my files and see where that first cover came from, and was it during those 6 months, or was it just before and I happened to do a random notes photo in between? I don't know, but but Rolling Stone called me back and said, hey, you shot that band 6 months ago. You want to do the cover with them? And I was like, fuck yeah. And so they put me in touch. You know what? I gotta tell you, like at that point, a lot had happened in that year, and all of a sudden I was kind of a hot shot. 88 was like a big year for me. I did Bon Jovi's New Jersey album cover. I was doing a ton of shit. Keith Richards for magazine covers, that kind of thing. It was a lot happening for me. So this was a big deal, and so they put me, and because the band had blown up so big, and they put me in touch with their management, and they were performing in. I was in my studio was in New York at the time, and they were performing at Meadowlands in New Jersey, and they were like, and I just assumed I'd have them in New York City to do whatever, and I'm in my studio or whatever. I've got to do a cover, which is usually clean. At that time, it was white was a suggestion, to get a clean cover, and then whatever pictures on the inside. So the plan for a Rolling Stone cover, you spend some time with the photographer, and you do what's necessary to get the shots. And the management said to me, look at these guys are like, they're wild. And there's no way we are letting them into New York City to do this photo shoot with you, because they're not going to make it back in time for the show, like the next day. So like, anything can happen. And I was like, okay, well, that really restricts me. That's really a problem. Now what the fuck am I going to do? And so, and they were staying at like, I don't know, like the Marriott, like in New Jersey, like next to the Meadowlands. And so I got in touch with those people. I went out there and kind of scouted and got in touch with them to allow me to use their banquet room and where I can set up a studio. But I had to do something else and figure out what was I going to do to make this really cool with like the coolest band of the moment, And I'm like, their whole dress and, their tattoos. I just had this like thing about, this has got to be hipper than hip, So I'm a Jersey guy. So like, I've got this sense of what's hip and what's not in New Jersey in a way. And at the time, Asbury Park was a dead city, which it's not now, but it was a dead city as a rollover from the 70s. And it was really desolate, but there was the Stone Pony, and there was a bar called Mrs. J's, which was a biker bar on the deserted beachfront. And it was a real deal. It was a hardcore biker bar. And I was like, perfect, this is the place to take the guys. And so I've talked them into, we'll do this studio shoot in the banquet room at the hotel. and then I'll have transportation together and we'll go down to Asbury and we'll do this thing. I didn't actually tell them Asbury. Maybe I did. I don't think they paid attention or cared anyway. They were sort of with me for the shoot. It was their Rolling Stone cover. They were into it, sort of, you know.
All right.
And they came in and, you know, we had met before, obviously, just a few months before. So there was an exchange of greetings or whatnot. And I start to get into the cover, but it's not, you know, it wasn't easy to wrangle these guys together. It was like being in a room full of monkeys, you know, and trying to get them, you know, I'm all about, you know, my MO as a photographer is my ability to, as I said, to connect with people and to get them to follow me. Maybe it's my passion, maybe it's my whatever, but to follow my lead and do what I want them to do. But even though I had them within this banquet room and within like a white seamless, so it was definitely a box, it still was a wrangle. I got them. We did a bunch of things together, you know, trying to get the band tight together and to do something that's going to fit on the cover with 5 guys. And you know what? I should actually share screens with you because I have a contact sheet right on my desktop. Do you want me to do that? Can we do that?
Yeah, I think we can.
Do you need to share with me?
Multiple participants can share simultaneously. So I think I gave you access to that.
Okay, so let's see if that works. Yeah, so here.
Okay, all right.
So this is
wow,
the actual contact sheet from that photo shoot. And you know, you can kind of tell by the energy who was doing what and where, and you know how late they were up the night before versus, you know, what they were like when they walked in with me. But obviously this was actually the cover right here,
okay,
in the center, and this was one of my choices up at the top with my TW. But this is back from '88. So I don't know if you want to leave it there or close.
No, you can talk over it. I like it, and
okay.
You know,
so, you know, I'm making a Rolling Stone cover, man. The lighting's got to be good. You know, I'm an upper echelon photographer. There's only a handful of people who get to shoot Rolling Stone covers. So I'm excited. I'm you know, I'm thrilled, and I'm, you know, really on my game. And you know, the lighting's great, but you know, getting 5 guys together isn't easy, especially guys who are cooler than cool. Like, how do you get them to like lean on each other or compose themselves in a way that really works, you know, within the confines in the box of a white, you know, square.
Sure.
But I did. It wasn't easy, but I did. And so we got this.
Were there any, because I got some great questions, because yeah, I'm the one who hosts a Guns N' Roses themed podcast, but my listeners are just way smarter than I am and know all the details and things that may or may not happen, rumors and things. So this is from Mark. He believes this was because Raz Q. I don't know if you know the name Raz Q. He was the manager for LA Guns, and he got Axl to be in LA Guns temporarily, and he was kind of like at ground zero of GN'R. Was friends with him back in the early days. So what Mark says, and what I guess it's according to Raz, because Raz's book, that Axl supposedly OD'd before or after the shoot. Like, is that something that you're
this shoot? You know, that's not my sort of my thing. Not that I'm trying to be coy, but you know, I don't know shit. You know, and I'm in my own world and I'm doing my thing. So you know, we were all fucked up in some way or another, whether it be at that moment before or after. You know, I don't know, but I don't know that rumor being true.
Okay, you can leave
again, they were ragged on the shoot, and the way it ended up, you know, was rough. But so this began in the afternoon, and obviously I was there early in the day setting up, trying to tweak it, make sure everything was right. It wasn't in my studio. I didn't have the control. I'm in a banquet room at a hotel, you know, so I was there for hours before they showed up. And then they finally strolled in and were corralled by their handlers and got them in this room.
What was the best tactic? You know, saying just sit here for 5 minutes. We'll go out for McDonald's after. Do they have to like shake keys in front of them like a cat? Like what was the best?
You know, again, I have my way. Whatever it is that is part of my bag of tricks that I use to get people to do things. Whether it's you talking a little bit about everything that I don't know about, or or a wink, or a smile, or whatever it is, that gets me, that I drag this connection from people and get them to focus on me and the camera. Look at, granted, it's your first Rolling Stone cover. If you're not focused on this, you should be. But on the other hand, they're Guns N' Roses. They don't give a shit about anything, and
Yeah.
they're ragged, like I said, both physically as well as mentally, I guess, or whatever. They were, it wasn't an easy bunch to wrangle.
How long did this shoot take?
This portion of the shoot, I don't know, maybe an hour or so. Again, I'm so set up that it's really about fitting pieces together, getting composition that can work for the cover and fit on the cover. I got to think about, cover lines, type, et cetera, how I have enough room for it, as well as a composition that sort of makes sense. Making it work within the confines of the lighting structure I'd set up, et cetera. It's pretty clean and kind of boring. It's on white, so it's got to be, I somehow need to get something to happen. So you want these guys to do something, but you still got to get them confined within the context of your the format of your camera.
Interesting balance.
Yeah, it's a juggle for sure.
Did any of them bring any ideas? Where it was like, did Slash go, what if I hold my hands like this? And Steven's like, what if I'm on one leg? And I'm being silly, of course.
No, Steven, you can tell. Steven was enthusiastic. Everybody else was too cool, kind of thing. I wouldn't say that they were uncooperative. That's not it. It was just that, they were too cool to be treated a certain way. But I mean, look at the one shot to the right of the cover shot. I mean, look at Axel's smirk, and I mean. But you have to also realize I've got 5 subjects, and each one has to look at, this is way before Photoshop and piecing things together and whatever, right? So I've got to get it in one picture. I've got to get all 5 of them to look good and give me something, and then really make it a powerful image for the cover. So, it's a lot, and you're sitting there and you're just shooting roll after roll of film, and you're trying to, I'm jumping around and doing whatever I got to do to get, it's a dog, a pet toy, to get the attention, kind of thing, whatever that means, whatever that takes.
I like the term, since I have 3 of them, herding cats.
Yeah.
Herding. Sometimes you got to shake the treats, but even then, they don't always pay attention.
Shake the treats, use the laser, whatever it takes to get them to focus. And frankly, it's also a cover. They need to, all 5 of them at one time in one shot with perfect composition and everything, all be looking into my camera and be giving me something, or the opposite, which is like, mayhem, and all of them in a different place. But whatever it is can make for an exciting photograph. But it wasn't easy. And you want them, there's some subjects who'll be totally cooperative and, okay, yeah, I'll try this, there's a sense of bad boy, not machismo, that's a bad word, but like, kind of bad boy, no, I don't do that. That's not what I do. Here, lean on each other, give each other a big group hug. That wasn't going to work with Guns N' Roses. Plus, it wasn't what I was trying to convey for the cover. These are the bad boys of rock and roll at this moment.
Action telling Guns N' Roses in 1988, like all jump at the same time.
Exactly.
Wait.
Van Halen, absolutely would have done whatever, but
That's
not Guns N' Roses.
That's true. Another question I got. I'm not sure if you did this photograph, but Ken Bagora from New Jersey, I believe. Actually, no, I think he's from Long Island. Sorry, Ken. He did you do the photo shoot that caused them to be late for the 1991 NASA Coliseum show?
No.
Okay, it wasn't them, because it's another cover of Rolling Stone, but Matt Storm's in the band at the time.
Yeah, and second cover. And I'm actually, I'm a friend of Matt's, and I know Matt now, but I was not together with Matt in the band. I did 2 photo shoots with Guns N' Roses. It was this one year, all within 6 months of each other.
So what about those pictures of Axl that you took where he's just looking all?
Oh wait, so there's more.
Okay.
Well, actually, I don't have it with me, but I don't have it on my screen right now. But there's lots of, obviously there's probably few hundred images from the cover shoot, this setup. And there's a great one where they're all giving me the finger, which, you know, should have been the cover, but wasn't.
Are you allowed to, and excuse my just ignorance on it, are you allowed to release these as yours, like later on, you know,
I own this material. It's copyrighted material, and I sell it in galleries around the world. You know, that kind of thing. I mean, you know, relative selling, I don't know what you mean. Selling it as art, selling it as prints, yes, and publish, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know if the one with them all giving the middle finger is out there.
I don't think it's out there, but you know, again, so with what I do, you know, I shoot a lot. I mean, back then, you know, it's film, so it wasn't like somebody was watching me. So I'm shooting as much as I possibly can, and nobody's looking at a screen or anything. No one sees this until I edit it and give it to them. But it's analog, you know. Now it's digital, so this would need to be scanned, and so there's hundreds and hundreds of frames. Rolling Stone picks one for the cover. They pick 2 or 3 for the inside, and that's it. That's all the world sees, unless I dig it out of my archive and scan it. So there are images that are out there, and most of it has been presented in galleries and exhibitions and such.
Okay, because it's just
not the whole shoot by any means.
Okay, because
so I don't think that picture. Pardon me. I don't think that picture is out there.
Okay. I mean, I was using that as an example because I always find that fascinating. Yeah, we see that one picture, whether it's, you know, the inside or it's the cover, and that's what's ingrained in our brains. And like you see their faces in that one position, but just from the whole shoot, it can just tell an entirely different story or stories. So I always just find that, and the only one who knows those stories are you, because you're the only one who has seen those. Yeah. So it's I always just find that really, you know, interesting, because yeah, somebody decided to put that one picture out. Yeah, it's you, but was that perhaps your favorite one? I maybe not. You said you wanted the one with the middle fingers. That might have been.
Well, look, it also context changes everything, you know. So at that 1988, you know, this was the picture, you know, or whatever. But 5 years later, 10 years later, you know, 20 years later, the context changes, and all of it. They're dead, they're alive, they're more famous, they're less famous. You know, you look at it differently. I'm different, you know. So I'll pick a different picture today than I would back then, anyway.
That's a good point as well.
I should, you know what I should do? I should open up the file and see what I have to actually show.
Go for it if you're allowed. You know.
So I'm going to shut you off for a second, and we can come back to here while I'm looking. We can talk.
Okay.
So we did the cover shot, which was on white, and I think I did something else. Yeah, I have another picture in that room because I'm always trying to grab something else. So what do I do that's still clean that could make a cover, but I'm in a friggin' Ramada Inn in New Jersey. Like, there was nothing that really was exciting or interesting to me, or that in my mind at that time fit for Guns N' Roses, you know. So
you didn't want to wake them up for like the continental breakfast and do, you know, at the Marriott.
Look, you know, given the sensibility I have now, I would have done it in the whole thing in one of their trash rooms at the Ramada. You know what I mean? It's like I would have done something so different than now. But you know, it was about control too, with a group of people that were sort of uncontrollable. So that was kind of an important thing, which kept my parameters tight. And in my mind, it was about Mrs. J's bar that I was taking them to later on. So we finished this shoot, and it's like, okay, let's regroup, and we'll meet downstairs. I've got one 15-passenger van, which was like makeup artist, hairstylist, me, the whole band, my assistants. My assistants might have been in a separate vehicle, but yeah, they might have been. But we were crowded, all of us in this van.
That's
and they're partying, and I get them in this van to drive them down. Now, from the Meadowlands to Asbury Park, New Jersey is probably, I don't know, 45, 50 miles maybe. But to me, it was like nothing. We're just going down the parkway. Like, dude, this is going to be great. To them, they were trapped in my van, and they weren't happy. By the time we got there, they weren't happy. And who knows what went on between when we left that banquet room for the studio shoot to when I got them in the van. And when I got them in the van, which wasn't, I remember it was a problem corralling them and getting them into the van. But when we did, I don't think we showed up to Mrs. J's till like 2 a.m. And this was the afternoon when we did the shot.
Wow.
So somewhere something happened in that time that wasn't good for anybody. But when I got them in the van, you know, they were a captive audience, and I'm just trying to be, you know, cool and on, and you know, keeping them interested in what I'm doing and not thinking, you know, not sitting in the front seat silent and leaving them in the back. But anyway, they were obviously partying, and meanwhile I'm calling because it kept getting delayed. It was one of those like, oh yeah, well, but be down in a minute. Oh, where's Izzy? Oh, okay, we'll go get Izzy, and then, you know, Axl disappears. It was one of those. And so finally we get them in the van, and we're going down there. So the whole time I'm calling Mrs. J, or whoever the person I was talking to at the bar. And let me back up. This is a hardcore biker bar in a hardcore town that was like dead. And I'm thinking, oh, this is perfect. These guys, it's going to be perfect with the bikers and blah, blah. And it wasn't when I got there at all. It was the wrong mix of Hollywood and Jersey, man. It didn't work. Okay, but I didn't know that until I got there. But I had this vision for what it was going to be, you know. And so and I'm calling the bar, and I'm going, look, we're on our way. Don't, you know. And they're like, no, we're waiting for you. Don't worry. Like, okay, I had this idea of them in this bar with all this stuff going on. Anyway, I show up in this bar, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and everybody is fucked up. I mean, it's 2 o'clock, it's the end of the night in a bar, you know. I mean, everybody's gone. There's a motorcycle against the bar, and some guy's doing a burnout on the motorcycle inside the bar. The place is fucking full of rubber smoke. I mean, it was horrible. And I walk into this room with all these people who are aware that I'm bringing Guns N' Roses down.
Mm.
And this is a small little place. This is not some big whatever. It's like a corner bar. And I walk in, and they're like accosted with drunken Jersey bikers. and you know, they're the coolest thing. They're used to being kind of in charge, was my sense, you know, in a way, because of who they are. And this was like that. And I just went, oh fuck, you know. And they had a little room in the back that was disgusting or whatever, that they could like be in and have a moment of privacy, but it really wasn't. And they were like, okay, like, let's get this done and get out of here. And they weren't happy how long it took to get to Jersey.
Were they giving them, the bikers giving them like a hard time, or was it like, oh, Guns N' Roses, let me buy you a drink? Like what was the
with a big slur, yeah, in their voice. Yeah.
All right, at least it was a friendly, you know,
yeah, but it was too friendly, and it wasn't who these guys wanted to be. You know, they weren't friendly. They were pissy at this point. And not happy. Not happy either.
Well, you got Axl. I'm assuming this is the bar that the pictures of Axl are taken on the pool table. Is that where that is, or is it another location? Because I see motorcycles in the background. Let
me just see. Yeah, that's what it was. Pool table. Hang on. Let me just see. So that was the cover. Let me share with you again.
Okay. I like this. This is why we do Zoom. I should take advantage of this feature more. Ooh.
So there's the cover. I'm just trying to see also low res, so it'll just pop up for you.
Okay. I appreciate, you know, you taking the time to do that. Look at that. With those young chaps.
So yeah, I mean, there's
the actual photo. Okay.
So I did singles of each guy. You know, again, I've got the cover already. Now I got to do inside pictures. So Axl being the front man, you know, obviously focus on him. Obviously, Slash was always sort of equal weight, even though Axl was the front man. Slash certainly was a front man in his own right. Mm-hmm. So it was singles of everybody as well as group shots of the band. And I mean, you could kind of see a hint of who the people were. You know, you kind of. Let me just see what I've got here that we can look at. Slash on the pool table. I mean, you could see the kind of the people and whatever, and you could see what a dump this place was. And it wasn't any big deal, you know. It was really just a shitty bar at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, wooden paneling, and you could see bikers all around. I mean, it looked like the ideal place to have this. Like your brain, you were thinking the right thing was to bring them there. It looks like they belong.
Yeah, but it wasn't. And it wasn't. I'm just telling you, all I remember doing, I just remember I can laugh at myself, and I did at the time, that here I am, this like, I got hair like Axl at the time. I'm like down to here.
Mm.
And I mean, Axl or Slash, they both have long hair. And I'm this young, skinny kid, from New Jersey who's like this photographer, and I'm like all excited, I'm like, come on, people, gather around, do it right. And they're like, who the fuck are you, So it was an interesting thing, but I managed to get it,
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was, the shoot I'm most happy about, but certainly relative to who I was shooting.
Was there ever, because I'll go through this in radio, there, not everything I do is, talking about Guns N' Roses or, the most, glamorous stuff in radio. You got to do things that you don't want to do. But was there ever a point where, because I don't know if I've ever had this, like, is this worth it? I don't know if I want to do this. Like, did that ever happen? Did you ever feel like, maybe this is too dangerous, or I didn't get that sense from you talking? But I was, curious. You're just like, oh man, I'm gonna have stories about this shoot one day.
My career is about creating experiences for me, and out of that came a photograph. So
Yeah.
it was, this was my way of doing something. Was it the right decision at the time? Who's the judge? I didn't feel it, but it didn't matter. It was. I made something from it, and that's what I do. I mean, this was a cockroach on the table, and Axl flicking a cockroach at me, and this ended up being the inside picture of the.
I didn't know that. I didn't know, like, the cockroach at you. I guess
This picture was at an exhibition years ago in Brooklyn called Who Shot Rock, and it was about us. It was about the photographers that shoot rock and roll, and they had like headphones near the picture, so you put headphones on when you look at the picture, and it would kind of tell the story, and that was the story of this picture. There was this. He was sitting there and letting me take pictures of him, and then he was, you could tell by his expression, he's fucking with me, and there was this cockroach on the table, and he went to flick it at me, and that ended up being the inside, and it ended up being a story related to it.
There's some fan like, hey, do you still have the cockroach? Do you save it? It's some crazy GN'R fan.
Sure.
And look at this. This is his Tiger Beat cover. Him with the Rolling Stone cat house, denim cut off shirt draped over, a chair, I assume.
Yep.
The motorcycle in the background. These are.
But you have to understand something, because I'm feeling it. It's coming back to me now, this many years later. There was tension here. Okay. They didn't want to be there, and they didn't want to be there with these people, and felt it was wrong. And they were like, I'll never forget, like Izzy coming up to me and going, we're going to get in a fight here. And I was like, no. These people are like here for you. Like I set this up like this. And they was like, no. We're going to start the fight. I'm like, no. Like, guys, can we just do, it's a photo. It's your Rolling Stone cover, man.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, that's brilliant.
Anyway,
look at these more. This.
Yeah, these are just some context, some bad scanned context sheets, I think, just for reference. Like, here's a band shot. You can't really see it too well, but
that's all right. This is very cool. I appreciate you sharing these on again on the Zoom side. If you listen on just on the podcast side, go to our YouTube channel. Yeah,
these are some like rough, like probably an iPhone like pictures or something to identify what was in the file.
Okay.
That's why that's the glare and stuff. So like, here's an example of, I was in the banquet room, but it was like, okay, I shot the seamless shot. Now let's do some other kind of picture that may still work for a cover. But, again, my opportunity was so small, both from time, but also, I wasn't in the right place to do what I thought I needed to do for Rolling Stone. Again, looking back, I could have done the whole thing in Axl's hotel room, and it would have been great, better.
Any other?
You can tell, they're all looking different. They're not paying attention to me. They could give a shit.
That's the rock and roll thing, because people do that on purpose. That I hate, when bands, but you could tell all the members are clearly looking in opposite directions just to do that. It's like that if you watch South Park, that Faith Plus One cover when Cartman did a Christian rock band. It's just some covers remind me of that. But yeah, As I
I mean,
keep
look
saying,
at it.
herding cats. That's what the
Yeah,
gun.
but some people are into it, you know. Some people get it, that it's about their image and whatever. And these people are about, like, my image is irreverence, you know. So these are from obviously that first shoot, not the
Yes, this is outside the liquor store. That first shoot when
now we're back to the
they
cover.
weren't going to be famous. You didn't know if they were going to be famous yet. Rather,
Yeah.
so obviously these happened in a short period of time. Did you ever have another opportunity? Because you obviously went on to have this incredible career to shoot and work with any of the guys from Guns N' Roses again?
No,
Okay.
no, this was it. Um, Obviously many other bands, many other things. I also sort of at some point, you know, I started to do a lot of Hollywood and really um, a lot of movie posters. And
Mhm.
I mean, look at this junk like biker with his arm wrapped around Steven. I mean, I don't know what the fuck is going on there. But
I love it.
yeah.
Yeah, top right. I love that. I mean, these are just fantastic. They really are. But you said you became
Oh,
friendly
no, I
with
became more of a Hollywood photographer, and I was like, you know what? Fucking rock and roll keeps you up too late, smoky assholes. Like, you know, the money's in something else, and these people will give me, you know, 2 hours and they're gone, and I get paid more money. What am I doing this for? Why am I staying up all night doing this? No, it wasn't quite like that, but I, you know, I
I
look back on it and go, you know, oops.
I mean, you did it. I mean, it's iconic, and I completely get what you're understanding, especially, I can't imagine how hard of a job that is when you're a photographer trying to make it. And if you're just going to try to just do music, especially with a lot of bands like that are unpredictable. I mean, you're a professional. I mean, again, look how pristine your office is. You want to be in a set schedule. You want to know
My
what
garage.
your garage. It's a nice garage. You got to see my garage. It's a garage in Queens. It's speaking of cockroaches, but
You know, I gotta be honest with you. I'm looking at these now, Brandon. I'm like, well, I got their attention, you know,
yeah.
whatever we're doing.
Look at that. That one photo we're looking at now. It's like that could be the cover of Saved by the Bell. Like the new the next generation, Degrassi, the next generation of featuring Guns N' Roses. They just look like a bunch of good kids who knew they were all on drugs at the time. They all look so like they all look so good. So how did you become friendly with Matt Sorum? He's going to be on the podcast in a couple of weeks for the second time.
Just, you know, through different people, you know, in LA and the music biz, you know, I don't know. I forget how we initially met, but you know, we worked together last year during COVID. We did a live streaming 10-hour festival for my gallery. We got a lot of musicians, and Matt got together with Slash and a number of other people and recorded something for our live stream. That was kind of great. So we just know each other. You know, my gallery openings at the gallery in LA, you know, bring in a lot of people. We do a lot of live stuff as well as DJ related parties and things that are thematically related to the exhibitions we're doing.
Very cool.
So yeah, let me just see what I've got here.
And while you're doing, and I won't keep you for too much longer. Seeing all your folders, it's giving me anxiety on your desktop. But obviously, you know where everything is. Do you think Guns N' Roses were the most challenging? Like, who was the most challenging artist? I don't want you to say it like a bad story about somebody, but as far as maybe,
I don't have bad stories, you know.
all
It's
right,
not,
that's good then.
it's not the dynamic that I have with people.
What's the
It's
most challenging artist then? Let's use that word. Like, was this the most challenging to wrangle them to, and as you explained, they weren't bad, but just I was curious of like who the most challenging, person might have been for you.
you know, I don't know. I don't look at my shoots that way,
Okay.
but I would say that this was a challenge.
Okay. We could leave it at that. That works.
I would say, you know, these guys were definitely a challenge. I think it had more to do with who they were than who I was. You know, I was a puppy in my career at the time, and I hadn't gotten to a point where I felt as in control of my game as I was a little bit later on. Look at, you know, one of my assistants at the time was Danny Clinch, who is now, you know, preeminent music photographer. Danny made a decision to go in that direction and built this amazing, unique career. And I decided to go more into Hollywood direction. It fit me. It fit me in a different way. So it wasn't really like I was jokingly saying earlier, you know, it was about money or about staying up too late, but it was definitely, I felt I fit more into something more cinematic than something more music oriented. I still always did music, but it was always at a different level. It was Springsteen, it was Aretha Franklin, it was Ray Charles. It was doing an album cover for someone who was a big star, because that was sort of the career that I developed. But I wasn't shooting every young band anymore.
When you, I don't even want to say when you look back, because you're obviously still very active. But when you think about it today, is there an artist where like you think to yourself, "Wow, I was in the room with them and I connected with them and I got a piece of time with them"? Because you mentioned Aretha Franklin, and I said at the beginning, you've
Single one.
every
No,
it's insane. Your resume is just as impressive as anybody's on this planet.
thank you. I'm a really lucky man. Like I worked really hard, but I had a big career, and it got to a place where it was legends. You know, it was just all of these iconic people, and the breadth of the archive, as I look at it, is not all of the young happening bands or the young stars. I built a career that was about the bigger names, and every one of them were important. But more than that, I always had butterflies. I still do to this day. I'm not intimidated by somebody, but I'm excited by it, and I'm thrilled to be collaborating with Sidney Poitier or Audrey Hepburn or Robert Mitchum or Nicole Kidman or Harrison Ford or Brad Pitt, or like those are the people I've worked with, or Aretha Franklin, Bruce Springsteen, James Brown, Ray Charles, to be in their presence, to be able to share something with them, but also to get them to collaborate with me and to listen to what my vision is and what I'm trying to make together with them is kind of cool.
It's very cool. And you mentioned Danny Clinch before, who's been on the show. He does a lot of stuff with Blind Melon, and they have that documentary out finally. All I Can Say about Shannon Hoon. Is that something you've wanted to do maybe going forward? Do you ever want to do maybe a film about your work to put your photographs to?
It's funny you should say it. I have a meeting tomorrow with someone who's trying to put something together. But there's a lot of stuff I've done and a lot of stuff around me. I've got 5 published books. I'm now working on a memoir, and the memoir is a kind of a different story. But yeah, there's always room. There's always time. We're still working. I'm still here.
Awesome. So what else can you, I guess, tell us about that we can look forward to from you?
Well, again, I'm one of the owners of the Morrison Hotel Gallery, and that's something that I'm very focused on. And we represent 125 photographers, all in the music space. Danny being a big one, Mick Rock, Bob Gruen. I mean, all of the greats, Lynn Goldsmith. But we do a lot of, I do produce a lot of special events, and I'm working on something now for October, which is, it's going to be a celebration of 1971 and the music that was created that year. And I mean, it was such a diverse, amazing year of music. And I'm doing it in conjunction with Sunset Sound, which is a recording studio here in LA that is historic. I mean, what was produced there, from Stairway to Heaven to Janis Joplin's Pearl to LA Woman by the Doors to Ringo to Prince spent 6 years in that studio before he built Paisley Park. The history, the DNA that's in that studio is unbelievable. And that relationship to that iconic music, to the imagery that represented it by the photographers we represent, is an event that I'm putting together. So it'll be a live concert, as well as it'll be a live stream, but there'll be a live concert portion with pre-recorded performances intercut in between, and shout outs and whatever.
Wow.
So look forward to that in October.
I really am. I was getting like goosebumps listening to that. Just
I mean, I got to tell you something. When I go in the studio, I've been doing a lot lately because we're meetings, and it's it's producing an event, so it's involved.
Sure.
Every time I walk in the studio, you can like smell the DNA. You can just feel like what went on in there in the last 50 years, 60 years, actually.
That's amazing. Oh, and before it slips my mind, because I know you've done some work with like Mick Jagger. I'm just curious if you've worked with the Rolling Stones, Charlie Watts at all, since it's
Interesting. No, I did not work with Charlie. I didn't work with the Stones as a group. I worked with Mick separately and Keith separately.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Yeah, I think we're going to do a little tribute to Charlie during this event. I think we should, of course. I wish I had photographed the Stones.
Okay, well, everybody else you photographed. So if you want to check out, including the Axl and the GN'R photos, the one that we've seen, I appreciate Timothy sharing some ones we haven't seen on this on the Zoom call. Thank you for that. But you can go to timothywhite.com to see all his photos, and I'm assuming any information about the live stream and the concert, any projects you have coming up is going to be on there.
Yeah, and morrisonhotelgallery.com, the galleries, and Instagram, Timothy White, and Morrison Hotel Gallery.
Amazing. Timothy, thank you so much. This really was an honor. You are a really fun guest. I got to tell you, this was a fun conversation.
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it very much.
You got it. So that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. When are you going to see the next one? Who's the next guest? Well, the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, you'll see it, I don't know if soon is the word,